Welcome aboard, Raider Nation. Today is Tuesday, and we're going to get into a little bit more of the Matt McGloin discussion. It really is unfortunate, but since Derek Carr has gone down, there's just a ton of people paying a lot of attention to this Raider football team. And this is kind of what I talked about before. This is what makes me so upset inside as a Raider fan. And it makes me upset at the media, but I don't so much blame the media. Bad coaching, bad decisions, poor free agents. I mean, all of those things led to us having limited amounts of success over, the last decade, more than a decade. Poor decisions in terms of, releasing John Gruden, who was probably a coach that could have taken us to the Super Bowl and won the Super Bowl. Again, a number of coaching decisions after that kept us in mediocrity, going out and spending big money on free agents. All those things aside, I think that the success that this team had, that Al Davis built in this team, the fact that this team is bigger than the NFL, the fact that this team had so many great games, so many great players, so many great coaches, such an iconic owner, I think the rest of the league just really could never wrap their arms around it. They couldn't embrace it. They were jealous, and so when you get somebody to a particular height, you want to bring them down. And that's what's going to happen with the Patriots. I was hoping so much that it would happen, that Derek Carr, our young up-and-coming MVP candidate, would be able to go into Foxborough. And we don't know. We don't know. It's still a possibility. But go in there and right a wrong. They rose to such heights off of the tuck rule game, and it would have just been so wonderful for us to have been able to go in there and to take it back and to start this dynasty. Just going forward, win the Super Bowl and just start on our own particular run. Because when you have so much success, people want to bring you down. And that's what you see with the New England Patriots. You see people want to believe. They want to believe that they deflated those balls. They did. They want to believe that, that they recorded other teams practicing. They did. They want to believe that Tom Brady is not everything, that you see on TV. He's not, right? And so when they get there, they want to pull you down. And so when the Raiders, I think, got so big and they were an outlaw and they slapped the league in the face and they said, you're not going to stop us from moving. You can penalize us all you want to. You're not going to change the game and take away from us the will to win. And guess what? Al Davis was capable of doing that. But in his final years, the game may not have gotten away from him, because I think that the Seattle Seahawks won the Super Bowl the way that Al Davis would have run the Super Bowl. But the fact of the matter is that once they had the opportunity to pull down the Raiders, they really like to pull down the Raiders. I hear people say all the time, the NFL is better when the Raiders are winning. That may be true from the fan base, but you have to understand that's not the reality of the National Football League. The NFL hates the Raiders. The NFL does not want the Raiders to be good. I'm not going to go into conspiracy theories or anything else, but I'm going to tell you right now, the NFL does not like it when the Raiders are relevant. They don't like it when the Raiders are good. It will be a black eye until a lot of these owners and these commissioners and things, until they're just completely out of the way. These memories die hard. And a lot of people said, Al Davis, when Al Davis dies. No, you can see it. You could see it now. You could see it with the referees. You could see that a good, disciplined football team still gets over-penalized. They still get calls that they probably shouldn't. And there's still a bias toward this football team. So, again, when you get to a certain point, it's natural that people are going to want to bring you down. And you stay down for a while. But the league is cyclical, and that means that at some point you begin to come back up again. And that's where the Raiders are right now. The Patriots, man, you've had your run. The 49ers, they had their run. All these teams that don't make it when they have their run, you have to understand, if you were dominant for a long period of time, you're probably going to crash for a long period of time. If you were dominant for maybe 2 or 3 years, you're probably going to have a bunch of 8-8 seasons, and then maybe you can get, dominant again for a couple of years, and then you're going to go and you're going to have, 8-8, 9-7 types of seasons, maybe a 4-12 sprinkled in there somewhere. But generally speaking, that's what this league is. That's what parity is all about. It's very rare now to see what's happening with the New England Patriots. And again, because it is happening that way, you know that fall is just going to be catastrophic when it happens. When Tom Brady leaves, it's going to be catastrophic. So again, I was just hoping so much that we were going to be able to go in there and we were going to be able to take back what was stolen from us. And I'll say it was stolen from us in the Tuck Rule game. And I was listening to Chad, Joe, and Lowe this morning, which I do every morning, and Lorenzo Neal said it. He said, hey, man, I've had this exact same injury twice. If the ligament is damaged really badly, it's going to take, 6 to 8 weeks. But if the ligament is not damaged badly, and if all they have to do is go in there and they have to put a brace on that bone, it's a non-weight bearing bone, you can be up and moving around in a week. In a week's time, you could be up and moving around. In 2 weeks' time, he came back after 3 weeks from breaking that leg. He said he wasn't effective, but he was a fullback. He had to, launch himself and cut and turn. Derek Carr doesn't have to do those things. And that means that depending on how this surgery goes, and they waited for a specialist. They didn't do it on Christmas because the specialist was not going to be available in Los Angeles. They were going to try to do it the next day. The doctor said, nah, my family's here. Can we do it on Tuesday? And guess what? You know what? He went in, saw the specialist. This is one of the best. And I talked about conditioning in my other video. This is so important. The rehab, using the TENS therapy, the ultrasound, hydrotherapy, all of the types of things, putting him in, sort of these hyperbolic chambers, doing all these different types of things in order to get him to the place where it is that he's going to need to be in order to heal faster. The prayer, the belief, all of these things. So those of you out there that, remember RG3 or remember this or remember that. No, everybody's different. Everybody heals differently. Who am I to take something away from someone that thinks that they can go out there and do it? Charles Woodson did it. Lorenzo Neal did it. They had the same break. They both came back within 3 weeks and they were able to play for the full game. Charles Woodson came back for the and played in the Tuck Rule, right? In the Tuck game. So I'm not saying, hey, man, if it should take this guy 12 weeks to heal, try to get him out there, even if he's hobbling, and keep him, in a brace and do all. No, I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is if this guy thinks that he can do it, he's a tough guy, he probably can do it, this guy may be back. He may be back for the first playoff game. Everybody's talking, he's done. We got to get behind McGloin. I'm behind McGloin. Trust me. But I'm just saying, listen, go to 95.7 The Game, download Chad, Joe, and Lowe, hour number 1. Lorenzo Neal himself says you can be back from this. If it's not terrible ligament damage, you can be back from this within a couple of days walking around, moving around. Within a couple of weeks, you could be running, cutting, doing all the things necessary because that bone, if it's not a complete compound fracture, if it's a hairline fracture and it's going to be very painful at first. And you'll probably be dealing with pain and swelling and different things of that nature. But, we're going to see. If McGloin comes out, he has a fantastic game. Who knows? But I'm not putting anything past Carr. I said it before. I'm going to say it again. He went out with the pinky. He went out. He hurt his hand the first last year when Del Rio was here at the beginning of the season. Came back in, played. Hey, everything's cool. Dislocated. That thing looked ugly as heck. Came back in, played. Came back in the same game, played, and has been resilient. So this is a strong guy. This is a believer. I think he is. I think he understands his own body. He knows where he's at. He knows what it is that he has to do if he wants to go out there and be effective and make sure that we can get this thing done. So we're going to go ahead and talk about McGloin as well. I'm welcoming Elias Trejo. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that name correctly. I will make sure to ask him at the beginning of the next segment. But he is from the Raider Nation Times, and he will be joining me today to talk about Matt McGloin, what Matt McGloin needs to do. We're going to look a little bit at that college career. He won some big games at Penn State, and he's done some pretty good things, beating out a guy that we drafted, the kid out of Arkansas, that we eventually cut. We released Matt Flynn. We cut Tyler. I forget what his name is. I can't even think right now. But anyways, we cut him. So we had Pryor and McGloin. McGloin came in, had a great half of a game, and then he had a great first game, and then he basically lost the games after that. But again, the talent so much different than the talent that he has now. I saw a couple of articles where they said, hey, you know what, stay away from the big playmakers, go to the guys that you're comfortable with, go to the guys like Holmes and Rivera, and maybe get Johnny Holton, who you've been practicing with. I say to heck with that, man. Get your consistency going with the playmakers, get your consistency going with the guys that can get open, master this offense, understand who's open, take advantage. I think the fact that he can get under center, I think the fact that play action run game is going to work a lot better. I think that makes Amari Cooper more explosive, not sitting there in the shotgun like Derek Carr was. I think the running game is going to be more explosive. I think the passing game will be more diverse and equally as explosive. You're not going to have to run those fly routes and those streak routes. Now you'll be able to use a lot of these, kind of, stop and go type of routes and get on top of safeties. If we can just pound the ball, get in there and pound the ball, and again, take advantage of those one-on-one matchups, isolate the guys that we're trying to isolate and stay within this system, Matt McGloin, I think, is going to be extremely effective, in my opinion. So, again, like I said, a lot is going on. I turn on the TV, and so many people are talking about it. And again, like I said, I kind of wanted, listening to people on YouTube and listening to other people, fans. Hey, we want to be under the radar. We want to be this. We want to be this. What a slap in the face! This is a 12-2 football team right now that has done everything that they've needed to do. They've lost 3 games. I'm sorry, 12-3. They've lost 3 games, but to very good competition. And we're not really legitimate, and these guys, they're good and they're entertaining to watch, but you need to do this, and I don't trust that defense, and this and that. So many things that they continue to say, not giving us a lot of love, talking about everybody else that they could talk about: Green Bay, Dallas, Washington, everybody they could talk about, including the dang Browns, because the Browns hadn't won any games. And as soon as Derek Carr goes down, I mean, it's wall-to-wall coverage about why we can't do anything. So like I said, when you begin to do something good, when you begin to make your way back up, it's nature, it's human nature for these guys to want to drag you right back down. The media, the legacy media, NFL Network, ESPN, all of these places, they should really be ashamed of themselves, because, again, this is a football team that has been doing so many things. What a season Derek Carr has had. What a magical season this football team has had. We're more talented than any of the other teams that are out there. Across the board, this is a more talented football team than any of the teams in the playoffs right now. You heard it here. This is a more talented football team than any of the teams currently in the playoffs, and that's including Kansas City and New England. And it's certainly more talented than the Pittsburgh Steelers or the Houston Texans or Miami Dolphins. So once again, in the second half, we're going to sit down with Elias and talk about that. So we're going to go ahead and go out to a break. I thought this particular, for Derek Carr, the for Carr, such a great person. And again, I'm hopeful that he returns for this season, but just because of him, because of the person he is, because of the man he is, the teammate that he is, the Christian that he is, I wanted to go ahead and put this commercial in for those of you. And I hope you guys enjoyed. And like I said, when we come back, we are going to sit down with the creator of the Raider Nation Times, Elias Trejo. All right, guys, stay tuned.
เขาจะได้อะไร ถ้าเขาทำแบบนี้ทุกวัน เขาจะไม่ได้อะไรเลย ไม่ได้รวยขึ้น ไม่ได้ออกทีวี ไม่มีใครรู้จัก ไม่ได้มีชื่อเสียงที่มากขึ้น เพราะสิ่งที่เขาได้คือได้แค่ความรู้สึกได้เห็นความสุขได้เข้าใจได้ความรักได้ในสิ่งที่เงินซื้อไม่ได้ได้โลกที่สวยงามกว่าเดิมในชีวิตคุณอะไรคือสิ่งที่คุณต้องการมากที่สุด
ไทยประกันชีวิตเชื่อในความดี
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. Okay, so as I said before, we are going to talk a little bit more about Matt McGloin at this point. Again, news coming out earlier today. Derek Carr's mom said that he is out of surgery and he's doing excellent. She prefaced it with the up, the big UP, and then a little lowercase date. So once again, stay up, everybody. She said he is out of surgery and he is doing excellent, meaning the surgery went really, really well. The placement went really, really well. So again, it remains to be seen exactly how long that recovery time is going to be. So right now, I want to bring in another guest, Elias Trejo. He is the founder of the Raider Nation Times. Elias, welcome to the Will to Win broadcast.
Hey, thanks for having me on, man. I'm excited to talk football and to talk Raiders.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Before we get into it, why don't you give us a little bit of background on the Raider Nation Times? How long has it been around? Why did you do it? And how many different platforms are you guys on?
Wow, so, man, I think it was 2011, 2010 when we actually launched the website. I used to be a paid writer for the Bleacher Report. And, I mean, you've been a Raiders fan for a while, and it was kind of hard to read anything Raiders related over the last decade when we weren't winning. And I wanted to, keep things positive on the Raider side. As a Raider Nation, I felt like we were getting kicked while we were down a lot. So I came up with the Raider Nation Times, which kind of ended up being on the bright side, of the positive side of things, even though it's kind of hard to find the positive in a 10-loss season. But I wanted to, give the fans, fellow readers, something good to read, that wasn't the same stuff about how bad we were. So I did that with a few writers. We still got some of the originals on the team, and we've added a few throughout the years. But it was intended for the Raider Nation, and just to give them something to come into and read. So it's been fun since I've started it.
Absolutely. So, so that is a website where you produce articles and things like that. Are you also on Facebook, Twitter, all of the other social media platforms?
We are on Facebook, Twitter. Those are the two main pages that we're on. We've we're always trying to do kind of different things, but it's pretty laid back. Website for Raiders fans and our writers. Our writers are from really, again, Raider Nation Times, because it was built for the Raider Nation, by the Raider Nation. We have writers in, Florida, in, England. We have writers in New Jersey, California, Texas, Idaho. I mean, throughout the world. So it's just awesome to see everyone's different point of views from different, parts of the world. So it's fun.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I did want to talk to you again, obviously, about Derek Carr, the horrific injury that he sustained, and then also Matt McGloin a little bit. But I did watch a video where you said that you actually interviewed Howie Long. Before we get into the meat and potatoes of that, tell me a little bit about what that was like. How did that come to pass? How was that interview?
It was fun, man. It was actually when I was a paid writer over at the Bleacher Report. We just had an opportunity to really talk about. I think it was something about the Hall of Fame. It was like maybe Van Heusen. It was like a promotional thing, but be able to just sit down and talk football, talk Raiders. I mean, back when I spoke with him, the stadium was still an issue. So the Raider Stadium stuff has been around for a few years now, but it was pretty laid back, man. It appeared to be a family man into what his kids are doing. Big Raiders guy. He believes they need to stay, in Oakland. But it was fun talking to him. I've been fortunate to interview several different athletes, celebrities, or whatnot throughout my writing career, and he's definitely one that stands out as the easiest to talk to, just because it was so natural. But it was really cool, man. As a Raiders fan, that one's always going to stick out as one of my favorite interviews.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, we had the opportunity again. I was able. Kenny Stabler was my all-time favorite Oakland Raider, and we did a Kenny Stabler Hall of Fame extravaganza, and we were able to talk to his daughter Kendra Stabler and Kim Ross Bush, and that was an exciting type of thing. I would have loved to have talked to Kenny Stabler, but if there was anybody else, I think that I would like to talk to, it would certainly be, Tim Brown, Howie Long, or I always loved Rich Gannon. I mean, I thought what he did when he came here changed the culture, and some of the things that he did were really great. But I couldn't imagine what it would be like to sit down with a guy as intense as Howie Long. All right, let's get into the meat and potatoes. You saw that game, obviously, on Saturday, Christmas Day. What a lump of coal in the stocking. Again, there's a lot of people saying a lot of different things. Some people are saying, Steve Mariucci came on and said, look, this is a 12-week thing, 6 weeks on crutches, 6 weeks, healing time. He'll be back in time, for the OTAs. The doctors right now, the surgeons basically are saying it's a 6 to 8 week type of injury. Everybody heals differently, but if it was a good break, XYZ. And then I heard this morning on the radio, as I said in the first segment, Lorenzo Neal came on and said, hey, I had this exact same injury. They put the brace on it, and I was able to be up and walking around in a couple of days. We know Lorenzo Neal played through it 3 weeks after. We know Charles Woodson played through a very similar injury. 3 weeks after. What have you been hearing up until this point in terms of the timetable? Have you been getting that wide of a timetable, or have you heard anything, sort of more concrete?
I think it's been very vague depending on who talks about it, and I think you kind of hit on the nail. Everybody, heals differently. We've seen doctors say, 6 to 8 weeks. We've seen some people talk about, coming back a lot sooner. Me personally, I feel like he's done for the year. I think just maybe the whole psychological factor. If we make it, to the Super Bowl, maybe he plays, but that's less than 6 weeks away, and seems like the doctors are saying 6 weeks is the soonest they can come in. But I think we're going to hear a lot of different things throughout, until we're out or until we win the Super Bowl. But I think this is Matt McGloin's team moving forward for the end of the year, and that's not as terrible as it sounds.
Yeah, no, I agree. 100%. There are a lot of people out there that are saying, "Hey, he's gone. Get on the Matt McGloin bandwagon. You don't want him to injure himself and potentially get hurt even, deeper into like RG3 and never come back as the same player." But I'm also I'm a big time believer that, hey, if a guy comes in there and says I could do it and it's not hampering him, much like the pinky finger, which a lot of people can make a very good argument to say it did hamper this offense. I'm just not somebody that says, hey, you know what, sit the guy down. He's done, package him, let him heal up until next year. If he can come back in and it's not as bad as we think. And the one thing that gives me hope is the fact that we do have such a wide range of predictions here in terms of, yeah, he could be up and walking on it in a couple of days, all the way to it's going to be 6 full weeks in crutches. There's some wiggle room in there somewhere, right? So we're going to have to see on that. But taking a look at Matt McGloin, again, we've seen Matt McGloin a lot more than these people on TV have. And, you just said it yourself. You wanted to come and talk about your team, knowing your team. I say the same thing. I watch the legacy media and they talk about Matt McGloin. They don't, he's done. They're not giving this guy a chance. They don't understand what he's been through. 6,390 yards at Penn State, 46 touchdowns. He was an honorable mention in the Big Ten, won some very big games there, cold weather guy. This was a college that was under a lot of scrutiny, turmoil, national media attention, and he led them to an 8-4 record as a senior amidst the Sandusky, debacle. And then he comes to the Raiders basically as a walk-on, and he, we draft a quarterback in the 4th round. We've got Terrell Pryor. We spend a lot of money on Matt Flynn. Who ends up starting, 6 games? Matt McGloin does. Somehow he goes from a guy that just continues to walk on to a guy that continues to be there year after year. And something that was really telling is that the Raiders put a 2nd-round tender on this guy. You don't put a 2nd-round tender on somebody that isn't going to garner any attention. There's no necessity for it, right? So in your opinion at this point, you said it just a second ago. It's not as bad as we all think it is with Matt McGloin. What do you see in McGloin and this football team moving forward?
What I see from McGloin is, and I think this is a term that's used by a lot of players to describe some players, is he's just a dog, man. I mean, if you look at what he's been able to do from coming in, I think, was it 2013 when he came in? He was undrafted. I think we had drafted Tyler Wilson ahead of him and signed, some, I think, was it Matt Schaub, Matt Flynn? I don't remember who it was at
Matt
that
Flynn,
time.
yep.
But,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's beat out. He's done it the hard way, right? When I think of a player that might exemplify what Raider Nation is, it's, blue collar, right? Hardworking, just scrapping every day. And that's really what he's done. So I see him no different than I see a guy like, Seth Roberts, Jalen Richard, Jamie Zalawali. I mean, these undrafted players that have stuck on our roster over draft picks, over free agent pickups. And, I have faith in what Reggie's doing. I have faith in this coaching staff. And McGloin has made it through, realistically, 3 head coaches with Dennis Allen. We had interim coach, Sperano. And now with this new coaching staff, and that's after Connor Cook being drafted again. Was it 4th round when we got him? So whatever he's doing it well. I've heard a lot of good things about him as far as preparation, things like that go. So I think he's fine. I think if we're going to fall back to a quarterback, just because we don't know him doesn't mean he isn't, good, or because the national media doesn't know him doesn't mean he's not good. He's not a young quarterback. He's 27. Like you said, at Penn State, he handled, they lost a lot of scholarships, and going 8-4 in the Big Ten. That's always a big deal. So I'm excited for McGloin, but again, I look at this whole team and Reggie's body of work along with Del Rio and the way they've won games this year and how they've built this team. He's coming into a phenomenal situation. You know what I mean? I feel like you could put in a guy like Connor Cook. Fans might cringe when I say this, even bring in a Matt Shaw or a Terrell Pryor, and I think they would find success with this team and this offense. But we're putting in the best quarterback out of those guys that we've had. Because Matt McGloin is, like you said, he's been tendered, 2nd-round tender. I think he's being paid more this year than Derek Carr is being paid, according to overthecap.com. So I got faith. Is this team can this team still put up 30 points with Matt McGloin? I believe they can. It's just going to be different on how we get there, because our whole focus on offense is no longer going to be give Derek Carr the ball. He's, your best player, put it in his hands. We're going to see a different focus on the offense. And if we're honest with ourselves, over the last 4 weeks with Derek Carr's injury, we've kind of had to mask his limitations with that injury. Our offense, even being able to take a snap under center for McGloin is going to open up so many things for our offense. So that's what I'm excited about. I think McGloin will be fine. Don't expect him to be an MVP candidate type, but I also don't expect him to be a scrub. Going into the playoffs, looking in, we have the 4th best quarterback in the AFC. He's better than Matt Moore, better than whoever the Texans put up. But his situation, his team, I'd say he's got a better supporting cast on offense than Tom Brady does. I think he's got a better supporting cast on offense than Alex Smith does. Only offense I think could be better is the Steelers, but not their offensive line. We have the best offensive line in the AFC, so McGloin's got some toys to play with.
Yeah, and it all starts up front, offensive line, like you said, defensive line. But one of the things that you brought up, again, 2013, we did draft DJ Hayden in the 1st round, but what if Matt McGloin is one of the gems of that particular draft, right? Here's an unrestricted guy. A free agent guy. Like we talked about, Michael Rivera was in that draft. Latavius Murray, Stacy McGee, all these guys still on this football team. Menelik Watson drafted in the 2nd round. A lot of people thought he was a reach. He's starting at right tackle. DJ Hayden drafted 1st overall. Showed at least something, moving into the slot. But again, looking at this, you've got a guy like Matt McGloin that you pick up as a street free agent. If he could come in here and he can win some games and get us deep into the playoffs, what a pick that's going to be. You package that with the fact that we were able to get a 1st-round quarterback in the 4th round, like you said, in Connor Cook. We talked about it at the beginning of the season. This is a strong quarterback group. There were times where, like you said, Schaub, Terrell Pryor, and then you've got basically a street free agent in Matt McGloin. That was not a very strong quarterback. There wasn't a lot of depth there. In fact, one could say there wasn't a starter at that point among the bunch. But I like what you just said. I've repeated the exact same thing. The Oakland Raiders have the best football team of all of the teams in the AFC, and I'll say it. They're better than Kansas City all around. I'm talking about superstars. I'm talking about depth players. I'm talking about playmakers and game changers. They are across the board. Pittsburgh with Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown, Ben Roethlisberger, you could make some challenge there, and again, Tom Brady can throw to the postman and the plumber and whoever else it is. So they're going to get some things done. But when you talk about guys that can make plays, when you talk about that big strong offensive line, when you talk about Khalil Mack and Bruce Irvin, I think we've got the best corner combo. Even though Sean Smith has struggled a little bit, if you look at all of our safeties, we probably have the best secondary even. Of all of the teams. So we have a better football team overall. There are individual players on each of those teams that we talked about, and sometimes 2 or 3 players, a few players on offense, a few players on defense. But overall, this is a very talented football team right now. They're motivated, and they really, really have something to play for, even if that's just to show their leader that they can do it, that they can do what he's asked them to do. We saw when Charles Woodson left, they still have carried on that spirit, that toughness, that family, and that commitment to building this football team. So we can only hope that they're going to be able to do that here. All right, well, that's going to be it. Do you have any parting words here for the Raider Nation?
Don't lose faith. That's my biggest thing. I know everyone around has been kind of praising us. Power rankings we've been to 2, 3. The national media is talking about us, and it's been kind of a awkward thing maybe for a lot of us. Like, wait a minute, is this really happening? Is ESPN talking about the Raiders in a positive way? But my biggest thing is don't lose faith. Of course, they're going to lose faith because they don't know the team like we do. But in my personal opinion, guys, again, I don't expect McGloin to be Derek Carr. He's going to be Matt McGloin. But I think you're going to see our offensive focus change. And really, I hope you start seeing our defense that, I think is going to play a major role in our run in the playoffs, step up for us. And I still think we're going to win our division, and I still think we go to the AFC Championship game. So don't lose faith, and hopefully we get that number 1 seed so we can host that game, because that's still a possibility.
Amen, man. Amen. I think the same thing. I think we're going to go in. We're going to beat Denver, and then whoever it is that comes out of that first playoff game, I think we have a really good shot of beating that particular football team at home, in Oakland. And who knows from that point forward? I mean, again, who knows? We'll see. Really appreciate you coming on, Elias. And once again, we're going to include in the comment section below, you'll be able to find where you can go and watch it. You have a YouTube page, right? You started doing some YouTube videos?
Started, man, but not as consistently as I would like. So I'm sure there'll be some avenues that they can catch me on here shortly that I'll be joining. So, but yeah, RaiderNationTimes.com. That's the best place to find.
RaiderNationTimes.com. All right, fantastic, brother. All right, well, it was good to talk to you. We appreciate you coming on.
All right, hey, thanks, man.
All right, man, take care.
Bye.
All right, folks, that's going to wrap it up for today. Once again, if you want to go ahead and send us in a question or comment, it's thew2w@gmail.com. Again, you can reach us on Twitter @thew2w, as well as on our gab.a account. That's @thew2w, @gab.ai. All right, guys. Well, tomorrow we will have some more guests. We got guests all week, folks, and I'm not gonna put it out there until we, get these guys booked in, because every once in a while I have technical difficulties, things fall through. But I'm excited, and like I said, I'm going to bring in a bunch of different people. We're going to talk about this. We're going to keep it going, keep the hope and the faith alive, keep the car going forward. Want to send a shout out there to Raider Ben. I watched the videos from Bronc Nuts or whatever his name is, and it just infuriated me. I saw what Raider Ben retaliated with, and then Bronc Nuts came back and apologized. But that really infuriated me. I don't get into the hate talk and the TTC and all those types of things, but boy, when I saw that, I just couldn't help myself. So shout out to Raider Ben, shout out to Watts Raider and all the guys out there that are defending the wall. Pistol 1 2 to the third. All you guys out there that are, trash talking and supporting the Shield and doing the things that you guys do, they can't handle the truth. Remember that. They can't handle the truth. You guys walk the wall. All right, folks, like we said, hang in there. We've got some really, really, really great guests, and I will see you tomorrow.